What's poppin', everybody? Hello and welcome to Popcorn Culture. My name is Ben Carlin and I am your host. Here with me today is my brother Jay, who will be in every episode.
Oh man, I'm here, Ben, but I'll tell you what, I am just got the full body, the full all over soreness.
The full all over soreness.
The full all over soreness. We because of the flu, not because I had the flu or anything, but because of the flu, everyone else in my family having it over the past week. I had to keep missing the gym, and there's always that first day back where it's like, oh boy, be prepared for everything to hurt again. And that was yesterday, and now it's today, and yeah, it all hurts.
If it makes you feel any better, I was also there yesterday, and I was also there last week, and I am also in full body pain right now.
Oh, so good.
All is well. I think that there is something about there is the joke about leg day,
yeah,
or even just the joke that is, don't skip leg day.
There is that joke.
And I will tell you what, leg day is just it just hurts. It's hard. It's difficult. I swear, if you just want to become into fitness at all and focus on anything, I think that you could just literally do lunges. Just hard stop. Just do lunges. Don't worry about anything else. Lunges are a full body workout. They hurt. They will make you sore.
There you go. Just lunge.
If you're
walking down the street, lunge. Walking to get some coffee, midday break, give it a lunge.
Give it a lunge. Yeah.
Hitting the treadmill, lunge it up. But you're gonna need an extra long treadmill.
Yeah, extra long treadmill, or maybe even slow treadmill. So
maybe, yeah. You want to be sprint lunging.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know though, man. It's this is one of those things where I look back and I have such a struggle when it comes to our fitness endeavors, and at any point in time, scrolling back in my phone throughout the years or whatever, and looking at past iterations of myself where at different points in time it was oh, this is when we were rock climbing a lot, or this is when I was running a lot, or this is when I was mountain biking a lot, and it's just all throughout all time I will go back and look at something where it was oh, okay, there's a much bigger emphasis on my back and core during rock climbing, and as a result it's wow, look, I look way different during that particular era of time.
Yeah.
And then we got super into powerlifting for a while, and it was oh my gosh, the effects of powerlifting are apparent.
Yeah.
And I don't know. But then I also feel over the past year we've done almost exclusively dumbbells. So no under bar work whatsoever.
Yeah, nothing under the bar. Just a lot of free weights.
Lots of free weights. And it's been, I think that I have surprisingly had the most amount of noticeable gains, which I think is kind of fascinating.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I feel
yeah, no big deal.
In case you're not watching, Jay's just casually flexing up a storm.
What are you talking about, man? Just he's stretching.
Just a yawn, flex, all the rest. So let me ask you this though.
Yeah.
What do you or do you have a current fitness goal? Something you're aiming towards, a direction you're trying to be?
I would say, if anything, at the moment, we just went and did the Chicago Marathon, and that sort of got me in this running mindset, which always happens whenever I go to one of these big races. I'm man, I want to do this. It seems so fun, and I could definitely do it. I would just have to get back into it, and then we could do it. And that would sort of be it. So I don't know if I want to jump straight into marathon or something, but I suppose half marathon has been something on the brain to do in the future.
Okay.
Yeah. Although I will say that I woke up one morning and I was all motivated to go, and I went down. I was I'm just going to do I think I just happened to wake up early. It was one of those days where I woke up at 5 and it was half an hour later. It's well, I'm definitely not falling asleep. And even if I did, I'm going to get up in 20 minutes anyway. I'll just get up. So I went downstairs. I was you know what? I've been thinking about running. I'll just go do a run right now. It doesn't have to be hard or anything. So I did just a 20-minute run on the treadmill, on the Peloton. So with an instructor, one of the classes.
Orders, yeah.
Yeah. And it was I did it, and I did the whole thing. I just did a 20-minute, beginner high intensity training class thing. And I got to the end, and it felt great. At no point was I I'm dying. And I was oh man, I felt motivated. But that was 2 weeks ago. And since then, this is going to sound so old, my hip has just been hurting. And it's just it's been so annoying. I'm one run, and it's I don't know. I don't know if I need to what I keep thinking okay, it was sore for I was expecting, like, okay, well, this is a different kind of soreness than I was expecting. I keep thinking, like, well, it'll probably just go away. And it's like, I'm sure it will eventually, but so far it still hasn't. And I'm like, now maybe I need to go, like, see a physical therapist or something, or get some sort of stretching routine going. So that was just like immediately discouraging. So that was annoying.
I understand completely. No, I feel like I have this thing, and I want to know if there's like, how like there's like brain crack for like an idea, like, and you've talked about this before, and like, or maybe like you asked you just the question because I feel like you're better explaining it. What is brain crack? Because everyone suffers from it.
Brain crack is just when you have an idea for something you want to do, and then the longer you don't do it, the more you build it up in your brain, and the more you build it up in your brain, the less motivated you feel to do it, because now you've put the idea on such a pedestal that there's like no way you'll ever be able to like do what you've built up in your brain, and then it just sort of snowballs in that, and it's like then you feel guilty for not having done the thing, and then you think of these new things you want it to be like, and you still don't do it because now it's going to be even harder, and it's what started as a good idea with the best of intentions is now like causing you to like suffer like guilt and like be unmotivated even though you haven't done anything and you didn't promise anyone anything. It's just all in your brain.
Okay. That was perfect. That was perfect. Cool. Yes. So I have this thing that will happen very frequently where like I'll like really want to get into something or like go about correcting like a behavior, like, okay, like I'm going to cut down on like, spending, or I'm going to try to be a little more active in this way, or I'm going to try to do like, spend more time like with friends, and like I'm gonna make like a real like focused effort to like put that on the schedule and like be like, like I'm doing this, and I think a lot of times, myself, right? And I find that sometimes what happens to me is that I will be like, okay, like I'm gonna get back into like running, like like I'm excited about it, like I'll get like a new pair of shoes, and like I'm gonna get out there and like put some pavement underneath me, so to speak, and oftentimes like you get out there and it's like, okay, like you did it, like you got like my first like 4 miles back in. I went for a run today, and like I'll be like so proud of myself, and like the next step, like I went for my run yesterday, like I'm still good, I'm gonna like let my legs heal up a little bit, like another day will pass, and it's like I don't know if I feel like going on another run. And it's almost like what happens is like I get so excited about something, and it's like you go and you like break the seal, and it's almost like the seal, what it does is takes all of the enthusiasm and it just like floods out of me. And it's like, okay, like I did it. I went on a run. And now what?
Right.
It's like,
I know exactly what you mean.
And it's like, you're exactly right. So you went and you watched Beth compete or, finish the Chicago Marathon. And I feel like a lot of what is so contagious about that environment is like when you get out there and you're like watching all these people, it's like you're watching the culmination of like months of training sort of like coming to their conclusion. It's like, it's the same thing as like watching like a graduation. There's like so much like potential. It's like you are at the finish line of the thing where all of the effort has been like going into it, and like you're getting to like reap those, like rewards or whatever. And like just feel like you can like really bask in the awesomeness that is yourself. But there's no doubt about it. It's like the hard thing is getting out there and then like committing to all of that work in real time and recognizing like what that commitment actually like constitutes in terms of like the expenditure of the time that you have available and the energy that you have available on a weekly basis. Like,
right.
And I think this is very frequently the case for me, where it's like, I will have an idea in my head and it's like, oh my gosh, like, like while I'm sitting here, it's like, I can think about it. Like, I'm so excited about this thing. It would be like so much fun. And then like, as soon as I zoom back a little bit, like I like kind of like look around at the life around me, I'm like, I am very busy always, all the time. Like, it's like, there's not like a whole lot of time at any point in my life where it's like, where like I can like recognize like, if I just sort of like got up off the couch right now, I could probably like do that thing I've been thinking about. Like there's not a whole lot of that. I
do know.
Like you know this about me, or you know this about like all people?
Both.
Yes. Yeah. There's no doubt. Like I love to romanticize the thought.
You have such big ideas. There's no doubt.
Big ideas. Limited bandwidth. available to always.
I mean, it's just how it always is, and it's like you have to either be willing. It's like you'll have to be in order to like accomplish these big things. Like it will require some amount of sacrifice on some other aspect of your life, whether that is like spending time with your family or sleep or leisure or wherever it is. Like you're gonna have to like pull from somewhere else. And like so often it's like you're so comfortable in your routine that it's easy to break that routine once, but like when you have to break it over and over and over and like reestablish this new routine that is almost categorically like less comfortable for the other people involved, like it can be difficult.
Yeah, because there's usually that like that ask associated with, like, for me, for example, like if I imagine myself getting up, every Saturday morning to like go on like the long run, so to speak, it's like, okay, well, Alice works on Saturdays, so that would mean like for her, it's like if I'm out there and like sort of like running long enough that it's pushing up against the time that like she needs to leave for work and we need to like pass the like, parent baton, so to speak, like that becomes like a thing too, where it's like now all of a sudden you got to figure out like how I'm not going to ultimately cause like Alice to go into every like Saturday day's worth of work just being incredibly stressed.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's like a
You just have to wake up an hour earlier, Ben.
I know. Well, and that becomes a thing too, because I feel like that hour is also borrowed from like the night prior in some capacity, where it's like,
you have to go to bed earlier.
You have to go to bed earlier,
Yeah.
and then it's like, oh, now we're missing out on like some quality time, and like these are the like I keep saying it, but I do feel like this is like the big one where I keep feeling like older is like the recognition of how many important like facets of my life there are, and how difficult it is to attempt to like start the next new thing.
Yeah.
Because it almost mandates something like the status quo being impacted.
It is, yeah, and it can be difficult, and I think part of like, because like when Beth was just training for a marathon, so we ran into this sort of stuff all the time,
right?
And it was like it was difficult. Like when is Beth gonna go on the runs? Because like I have to go to work, and like I want to be able to do like the things I want to do too. So I mean, if that meant like she was like waking up early, or like calling, saying like, can you get home like 10 minutes earlier? And then like I would literally like get home and we'd like pass each other through the door, and she'd be like on her way out to a run,
right?
And I think what it comes down to is like, you're right, like, oh, now it's like you have to like sacrifice like, oh, time we could be spending together, like quality time or something. But I think there's this like big like I think it's like a way you frame it, and it's like you have to like redefine what like quality time like means in your brain, I think sometimes. So like sure, maybe if you have like less quality time or something, like where you two are sitting next to each other on the couch or like discussing something at the table or something, like that is replaced with like you going out for a run or something, or Alice going to work or something. Like even though you're not physically in the same space, like
the support you're showing one another,
one another is like the same thing. It's just not as like visceral right there.
That's a really good way to put it. I think.
It's like, and it's difficult because it's like in your mind, like, oh, I'm not spending time with Alice or something. But like if this is important to you and she wants to support you in this thing, then like you like in a weird way, it's like you are letting her be supportive of you by going on the run.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Which sounds backwards. Like I understand how that sounds. Like I'm giving you the opportunity to give me money or something. Like,
right. No, I do understand what you're saying. Like it's even like once we had Addison, I think it was very apparent how quickly it was like, wow, like that phrase, like it takes a village. It's like people always sort of say that, and it's always kind of felt like this like platitude, if you will, like oh yeah, like it takes a village, like everybody contributes somehow. And then like you start going through like the process, and like you have like the baby shower, or even just like the people who are like coming to like help bring you a meal or something, like right after you got home from the hospital, or even just like coming and like holding the baby for you for an hour so you can like go get some sleep. All of a sudden you're like, whoa, okay, like it literally does. There's like so many different like elements that like have to come together, in order for this to happen. And so like in a lot of ways, like, you know, Beth finishing the marathon was like, it's a pretty big feat for you as like even just like a supporting role in her venture.
Right.
As well.
Yeah.
Which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's like an interesting way to like, you should give yourself like a gold star.
I felt, you know, it felt like a team effort, you know, like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
wasn't out there running by any means. She did way more work than me.
Right.
But yeah, like, you know, it wasn't, but it was also like joyful for me to like help her do it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, she's never like asked me like, oh, do you care if I go on a run? You know, right now it's like, oh, like, of course I don't mind. Like I do not. Yeah, definitely go do that. I'll just watch the kids. I don't care.
Right.
You know?
Right. Okay. So to like sort of like take this idea and like switch gears a little bit, like one of the other things that I've been kind of curious about lately, like within the world that we exist in, like through Super Carlin Brothers and like making content like around the fandoms and stuff, is that like over the past couple of years, we've really noticed just how much more stuff is out there that like possibly you need to be like consuming in order to keep pace with everything. And like, I think Star Wars and Marvel are both like pretty big on this front right now, where there's just like, it's almost like at all times, every single month, there's like a new release of some kind. And we were on a call like last Friday with some patrons for Super Carlin Brothers, and it was like interesting talking to them because they were like, oh, like, what'd you think of She-Hulk? And I remember being like, you know, I haven't watched it yet. And like, I'm like, even like looking at it from their perspective in my head, and I'm like, I can see where that would be surprising. You know, it's like this is literally someone who like pretty much makes their livelihood by discussing these very things. And it's kind of like, it's like, I'm not even up to speed. It's almost like, oh my gosh, you know, like I didn't do the reading assignment for like a class. Is like what it can feel like in some capacity. And you definitely start to feel like slowly like inundated, or almost like you're drowning a little bit in everything that's out there.
Right.
And so like sort of like my curiosity, I guess, with all of this is partly that, you know, it's like it does start to bring that big question of like, do you need to watch all the TV shows in order to understand like the next Avengers level event? And it's not, you know, necessarily super clear what the actual answer to that question is. I'm sure there's a version of it where it's like you can appreciate it more if you've seen everything, but also like they will not have a world where you don't understand like what's going on, even if this is like the first thing you've ever watched. But yeah, so I like what I think that I've noticed the most, especially as it like pertains to maybe how I presented this, which is like, you know, is it my homework to have like watched She-Hulk? And the answer is almost like 3 years ago, like back in like 2019, for example, is like you might have 4 major new Marvel releases in a year. And for the most part, for my job, it was absolutely required that I saw all of them on opening night,
right,
in order to like be a part of the conversation. But now it's like, unless you are going to commit your channel to being nothing but like week in, week out, like episode breakdowns,
right,
it's almost hard to even know like what all is everyone else watching. Like it's almost like everyone's attention has kind of been like diluted by how much stuff is out there.
It does feel that way sometimes.
Yeah. So like from our perspective, it's like, do people want content on like Andor, you know, or is it like 10%, like, you know, out of the 100% of the population that would go and see like a Star Wars main episode, maybe like 15 to 20% of those people are watching Andor.
Right.
Which is like, it's like, well, is that like, is everybody in on this? Like, you know, do you know what I mean?
I
like
do know what you mean.
It becomes like really, really, really difficult. And so
like because like big releases and stuff used to happen like all around like specific movie release dates.
Yeah.
But so much more content now comes out via streaming, and because it comes out like episodically, like, and because people can watch it at their own pace, and people are varying levels of interested in it, and people have varying behaviors of how they consume streaming TV, and people have varying degrees of how much they care about spoilers and stuff like that. It's like harder to build up like a big
like tent
pole around like whatever comes out. So like I remember like for example, like when WandaVision came out, I feel like this was almost like the turning point.
It may have been.
It really felt like it. It was like the first, it was like you had the break, like not that other streaming shows obviously weren't coming out or something, but this really felt like the turning point around it, because when it first hit, like it was the first big release thing on streaming in a while. Like I know like Disney Plus launched with like The Mandalorian and stuff, and everyone loved that and things, but and that was sort of the first of its kind. But like when WandaVision came out, it may as well have been like a feature film.
Yeah.
You know, like the excitement around it was the same as like Endgame or Infinity War, and like it was like, oh my gosh, we're gonna get like 6 weeks of this, and basically that's what it felt like. It felt like week after week was like it felt like the entire fandom sphere was just like buzzing on WandaVision,
right?
And then it was like,
what is going on?
Like this is awesome, and it sort of felt like okay. And right after that, I think it was a pretty brief period, and then like Loki came out, and there was like a little, there was like it was less momentum, but still a lot of people really in on Loki. But by the time like Falcon and Winter Soldier came out, I was like, yeah, okay, like this is just gonna be like sort of the norm now, and it's like, oh, we can treat this just like a TV show, rather than like a huge event that's happening.
Right, yeah, and then on top of that, you know, like shortly thereafter, you know, you've got like the Hawkeye coming out, and it's just like, you know, like one thing sort of after another, and like before long, you're almost like, man, I need to catch up,
right?
You know, it's like I have like what, like 27 episodes of,
I know,
of
yes,
like prominent television that I haven't seen.
It's amazing how fast it goes too, because it seems like, oh yeah, like one episode a week, no big deal, no problem at all, right? That's easy to keep up with,
right?
Because that's what it'll be like. But you're right. It's like when you're talking about with the running, where you're like, oh yeah, I ran yesterday, I'm so good, I'm gonna recover, and the next day you're like, oh, man, I don't know if I feel like going running today. And then you look down and it's like, wait, I feel like I just went for a run. That was, 5 months ago.
Right,
wow.
Yeah. It's like, how long did that one run get me?
That's weird.
Yeah.
Like, but I think about that. Like, you know, earlier this year in April, I did like Peloton a day in the month of April, because I couldn't wait until May to get the rhyme right. But,
yeah, nice.
But anyway, I remember I was so excited that whole month. I did every single day. I didn't miss a single one. And I was like, man, that was awesome. And then I literally have not done another one since then.
Right.
And it's like, if I were to go like get on the bike and, you know, it would be like, oh, and I look down like, when was your last round? It'd be like, April. And I'd be like, are you kidding? I feel like I was just doing this all the time. And it's like, well, yeah, you were, but now you're not.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting how I don't even know. It's almost like I always described it like this was like the thing. I would play the soccer game FIFA as a kid, and I would always describe it as like holding the turbo button down, because like as you're running around the field, if you hold down like square, you know, on your PlayStation controller or whatever, then your little guy will run faster, and he's got like his little turbo bar. And it was sort of like, but like if all you ever did was run around with that one player in turbo mode all the time, by the end of the game, he has none left.
Right.
You know, and it's sort of like, okay, like, you know, at this point in time, it's like you can hold down square as much as you want, but he's not going to run any faster because like you used all of it. And so, sometimes I do think that like this is like a weird aspect of life, is it's like, how much am I holding down the turbo button on something? And then like, as soon as like I sort of like get like that like moment to like catch my breath, it's like, it's almost like, having like a super like crazy adventurous night, and like you sit down like on a couch somewhere, and all of a sudden it hits you full speed, and you're like, I'm kind of tired.
Right.
It's like, I know we've all been having so much fun, and there was so much momentum, and then like we sat down, and now we're sitting.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're tired. You know.
Yep.
It's like, how do we keep the adventure alive for the rest of the night? So anyway, yeah, I feel like that's the thing is like. And I'm even curious too, like as to like how the next several years progress, like will it be the case where it's almost like, let's do fewer things so that people can focus on them more,
like so that we can focus on them more.
Right? Yeah, I mean, like I know that I would personally benefit from just simply there being fewer things coming out at once, Like even like another one that I think this is like possibly a good example is we have like Strange World is like a new Disney animation movie that's coming out this week. And like typically I would, again, you know, if we go back to like 2019, anytime there was like a new Disney animated movie, we were doing like trailer breakdowns, and like every single time like a new piece of information got dropped or like the director tweeted like, you know, like, hey, heads up, wink wink, it'd be like, what, like we're all over it, like this is awesome, you know. And you know, now it's like it's so funny because I mean it's been on our calendar for months and months and months here in the office, like, you know, scrolling through like our like digital, you know, display that we have in the main area. And it's like, man, it comes out this week, and I don't know like what the main character's name is.
Right.
I don't know anything about it, but which is similar possibly to like Encanto when it came out last year during like the Thanksgiving holiday. You know, I had been like, you know, Alice and I were pregnant, expecting Addison the whole year, and sort of distracted with a bunch of other things. And ultimately, once it hit Disney Plus, I was like, this is the best thing I've ever seen. Like we covered it like crazy. But yeah, Strange World's coming out, and it's like, I'm like, is anyone talking about this movie right now? Like, am I just missing it? Am I looking in the wrong places? I
don't know. I feel like I'm sort of in the same boat. You're right. Like, yeah, it's coming out like within the week or something. And I'm like, oh, I keep like forgetting. And I'm like, I don't feel like there's been any buzz almost anywhere about it, you know?
Yeah.
Like I've seen a few trailers, and that's I don't feel like I've heard anyone talking about it.
Right.
Like, or is like, am I just not looking hard enough, or is there just not that much hype around it? Like, I don't, as far as I can tell, it's not like a, you know, Disney princess style musical or anything.
Right.
So I just have no idea. And then like, you're right. I could be fully prepared to go and see it and be like, well, that was the next best thing I ever saw, but who knows?
I know, it's a very interesting place to be in. Like standing here right now, like what if next week we're like, oh my God, we saw it and it was the best thing we've ever seen.
Yeah. Strange Planet. Oh my, gotta see it now.
Yeah.
Who knows? I mean, I remember some of the trailers looking like very similar to like the beginning of Up, where they're like Charles Muntz.
Yes.
The man who explored the entire world and found all these crazy things, and had like that kind of like old timey radio voice going about it.
Yeah.
And then I have seen some of the trailers where I feel like it might be like a little bit self-aware. Like they have this like one little gloopy character that's got like a bunch of little like weird appendages. It looks like a ball of goop with like a bunch of legs sticking out of him. And it's like, I don't know if he has a face or anything, but every time I see it, I'm like, there's gonna be so many toys of that thing. And then like the last trailer I saw, like one of the guys was staring at it, and it's like, I don't know what you are, but I want to merchandise you. And I was like, that was all on the nose.
That was a little on the gloop.
Yeah, we get okay, Disney. All right, here we go. So I don't know. I mean, it's like it's funny. Yeah, like, but I feel like the same was like true with almost like Wakanda Forever. Like that one is like I was very excited for it to come out, but I didn't necessarily feel like this big hype train coming up to it, where it was like you could feel like when like Endgame or even like Frozen 2 or like Toy Story 4, like these movies that like, you know, sequels that are like way down the line, it felt like, oh man, I can't wait.
I know.
Like people are waiting on the like, you know, let's go. You know, there was like this like you know?
No, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Like it felt like very like electric, and it even felt like, you know, we always go into like the Thursday night viewing of everything. So like we're seeing it like opening night or whatever. And even that seemed like for a long time you'd get there and it was like kind of like crowded, and there was like a little bit of like a line for like snacks, and you know, the theater was mostly sold out. And it's like, I just feel like most of the time I like walk in now and it's like, okay, where should we sit out of like the 700 available seats in this?
Oh, I know. It's just theater. Like there's been a few things that I think are really hurting that experience. Number one is COVID, because COVID's the worst, and it just, you know, upended the whole world. You know, nothing you can do about that.
Right.
But then because of COVID, streaming itself became just such a bigger deal.
Yep.
Which is that. So yeah, I think people are still less comfortable going to movie theaters specifically. The fact that because streaming is so successful that like movies are out of theaters and onto streaming so fast, you know, it's not like before, where if you didn't see it in theaters, it was like, well, I should see it in theaters because I doubt I'm gonna buy it.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
Where now it's like, well, if I don't see it in theaters, no big deal. I'll just see it on streaming like 2 months later, the moment it's available.
Right.
And I'm already paying for it, so whatever.
Right.
You know, why go there and like buy expensive popcorn and stuff? And then 3 is, and I don't know how to fix this, because it's like, I see how they ended up there, but I kind of wish they'd just go back. But it's the the advent of, you said it, the Thursday night viewing, which
Yeah.
is the reason that all of a sudden, like when you see, whenever a movie's coming out, it's always on a Friday. That's always the release date. But you'll always be able to see it on Thursday.
Right.
And this like the to watch this ravel over the last 10 years has been fascinating, because the reason you can see it on Thursday is because once upon a time, for Friday, because it came out on Friday, you could see it at 12:01, like 1 minute past midnight into Friday. So technically on Friday.
Yes.
So you'd have to go in line on Thursday night to get there for Friday, the moment it was Friday. And that was oh yes, it's so exciting. And then eventually they started peeling that back to 10 p.m. And I was like, okay, you don't have to be here until midnight. We'll give you 2 hours.
Right.
That's fine. Now it is, you can literally see it at 3 p.m. on Friday, but so it may as well just come out the day before, but which is convenient, I suppose, but there's no pomp and circumstance around it, and it just feels very diluted. And it's yeah, whatever, just come see it.
Right. I know. Yeah. And I don't know how to you're exactly right. How do you get that back? How do you move Black Friday back to midnight openings? It's I don't even know. I don't even know what's better either, because you go back again to 2019, Disney had 10 movies clear $1 billion at the box office.
Right.
And it's just those numbers are so absurdly staggering.
Yeah.
In terms of how much popularity and how much excitement there was about going
to the movies. Yeah, it's I feel like those numbers aren't going to be beaten because since COVID happened, people don't like going to the movies anymore.
Right.
Is what it feels like. Or maybe just the movie industry or the theater industry took such a hit from it or something. But I don't. Yeah.
There is this kind of odd I imagine it'll be part of us for quite some time. But I know all the major sporting events, or I went to the When We Were Young music festival a couple of weekends ago. Every time I am now around tens of thousands of people at once, there is this sort of is this supposed to be happening? It's I am aware of I am aware of the impact of having, been inside around max, 11 people for 2 years straight. It's hard to shrug that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's an interesting spot to be in.
It
to
is.
Say the
it
least,
is.
To say
Yeah.
the least.
Okay. This will be very interesting. The other big what I am sure they are expecting to be massive movie release is Avatar: The Way of Water.
That is
which
an
comes
interesting
out
one.
in December, because Avatar, the first movie, which is over 10 years old or something now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was the first movie to crack $1 billion, right?
I don't know if it was the first to crack $1 billion. It was the highest grossing ever.
Okay.
I think it did 1.9 billion or something absurd.
I mean, that was the first super duper next level blockbuster box office movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. That became the new benchmark. And so it's been a while, and it is a follow up, but I guarantee you they are hoping for those kind of numbers.
For sure.
For The Way of Water. And if ever there has been a movie that was the experience was so much better because it was on a big screen, it was Avatar.
Right.
And whether you love or hate the story, it's a movie you physically experience.
It's true. It's true. Yeah. It's definitely there's something about the level of immersion that it had to it, and seeing it in IMAX is completely different from watching it in your home on your TV or whatever.
Yeah.
Even the way, I mean, it's just a very cool world.
Yeah.
The imagination that went into it, the almost bioluminescent nature that everything has. Even if you go to Disney World, Animal Kingdom, and you're walking around the Pandora section of the park at night,
yes.
Everything's lit up. It's man, this is cool.
Yes, it is. It is very cool. It's very fun. I will tell you what, if you're ever there, the trick is get your phone out, turn it on night mode, and just let it go.
Yeah.
You got to really hold very still for 3 or 4 seconds or however long it takes to do it, like the images are insane.
They are really cool.
Yeah.
They're really cool. I know that we were there for like a work trip a couple of years ago, and we were just like, they almost had to like come and gather us to get us back on the bus because we were like, oh my gosh, I just took a picture of this plant. It's so cool.
Oh man.
Dimly lit spaces.
Dimly lit spaces with bioluminescent and blacklight. Let's go.
I'm into it.
Fun.
I'm into it.
Fun.
Okay, so and whilst we are struggling to keep up with all other things that are available on streaming, it seems like you've also been recently watching a series.
Yes, I have.
Called Inventing Anna.
Inventing Anna.
How is it?
Oh man, it is I think I've been really enjoying it.
Okay.
It is I want to say true story, but like each episode like starts and like it'll be like everything in the show is true except for everything we made up. So it's like, okay, they're being pretty funny about it. They're definitely dramatizing a lot of it. But Inventing Anna is based on the true story of this like socialite con woman.
Okay.
And like as of watching the show, it's still unclear like where she actually came from at all. She just sort of like appeared in like the upper elite echelon of like New York City's, top tier hyper rich people.
Yeah, like the gossip girl.
Yeah, like the gossip
the
girl.
Upper East Side.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like suddenly she's just there. She's this socialite, and she is just like conning people into like paying stuff for her, and like taking advantage of, I guess what they call in the show is like the invisible money that changes hands every day. And it's like all about introductions and appearances, and like everyone's so afraid to be disrespectful of someone else's wealth because it might hurt their own wealth, that like she's able to just like pretend she's wealthy and everyone treats her as like she's wealthy. But like the mystery of it is like how she's fitting in, because it's such a foreign world to anyone who's not like, extremely rich, where like everything is fashion and art and galleries and fundraisers and whatever.
Yeah. This is like it's a very, very, very interesting concept to me. And it takes me back to Catch Me If You Can with Tom Hanks and Leonardo DiCaprio, where like Frank Abagnale Jr., who was also a real person, seemed like he sort of just realized what is the term people use like for Hermione, which is that like she just sort of has like maturity that like maybe like exceeds what you might expect for like an 11-year-old.
Oh,
there is a word for it.
Okay.
If it'll probably I'll set my mind to
set your mind to
it.
work on that. Give it the crossword puzzle.
So probably somewhere in the next couple minutes it'll just hit me and I'll just like scream it out loud. But anyway, it's like you've got this person who realized that like how often does anybody actually think that they're being hoodwinked?
Exactly.
And it's sort of like, in general, the answer to that question is just like never. Like I don't typically think that people are trying to like trick me on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Especially in like a fairly like innocuous environment.
Right.
And so like all of a sudden, like if I was at like a social event or at a party or something and somebody came up and just started like blatantly lying to me, but like could walk the walk, then it's like, there's really no reason for me not to believe them, because under most circumstances, it's kind of like, there's not really anything you can get from me either, given where we are. It's
right.
like this is just, we're just simply like communicating. So like if you come up and like make it seem like you're a much more important person than you actually are, then I'll probably believe you and walk away from it and be like, man, I met someone interesting today.
Yeah.
And I feel like you're right. Like this is like the odd thing, because I know that like one of the big things that they talk about like with this particular show is sort of like the way that you can go into like a lot of these like very, very like luxury environments, and there's a lot of fear of like stepping on toes or like potentially like insulting like an important person of some whatever. It's like it's a set of rules that just don't exist anywhere else
exactly
in society. Even in Name of the Wind, there's like a very famous example where like Quoth gets to this like new city and he has no way of like getting to effectively the king of this town, the mayor, other than to just like sweet talk his way there. So he finds like a baronet and just walks up to him and like pretends to be a person of higher rank. And it's like that baronet either can choose to call him on it or help him basically out of fear of insulting.
Right. Like he doesn't recognize who Quoth is, but Quoth is treating him like he's superior to him. And it would be like rude of the baronet, then it would be very bad for him to not help him if he is someone important. So he just helps him.
Right.
Yeah.
So like the example that like I remember where I've sort of like found myself in one of these situations before is that earlier this year, after 2 years of mom and dad for Christmas having like given Alice and I like a couple of gift cards to go to this like one resort in Virginia called Primland.
Yeah.
Which is like it's just an expensive, like, 5-star resort type of place. And we stayed for like one night and it was on like a Sunday.
Yeah.
During off season. So like, you get there and like they immediately come out to your car and they've got like wine and like, sparkling water. And like, it's like one of these things where like someone before you even realize it is like loading your bags up and like taking them to your room. And it's just like the entire experience. Like I felt like nervous.
Yeah.
Because it was like, I don't know how to interact with this set of protocols.
Yeah.
Like there's clearly like a dance involved with how this plays out and I don't know it.
Yeah.
And it was like, I have a gift card.
Right.
Like, do I give you that now or
yeah.
But like any other hotel experience I've ever been at, the number one thing the hotel wants from you before they will let you into that room, before they'll give you your key card, is your money, or at least claim to money. So it's like, we'll take that credit card. We're going to put this deposit on file. Don't wreck our room. Thank you very much. Enjoy your stay.
Yeah.
This was different. It was different in that, like, I kept asking, like, can I pay you guys for the room? Like I was trying to do it like first, just like get out of the way. And it was like one of these things where like, we'll figure it out later.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do you mean we'll figure it out later? Like, I don't understand.
Right.
So apparently I would be very bad in this particular environment.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I'd be able to like walk the walk. Maybe now that I've done it before, I would know a little bit more.
Maybe.
But
this is the real question. Yeah. When you're watching this, I was like, how does she know? Like, where is she getting the experience from? Because she like doesn't have money, but she is walking around in like all these crazy designer clothes, and she like looks extremely fashionable, and she can talk the talk and like walk the walk, but she's not from money. And it's like, how are you doing it? This is like, and it's like, is it just all confidence all the time? But like, you gotta have some knowledge to be backing it up, because she's doing it for like years,
Right. Yeah. And I mean, it's like on some level, like once you're 25% of the way in, it's kind of like, okay, maybe you're starting to like learn things as you go.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I guess she gets better and better at it. And it's like, but it's like the way she keeps like conning people. It's like I think the one, I listened to a podcast about this woman before they made a TV show about her, and it was like, and the journalist from the podcast ends up being like one of the characters on the show, although not the main journalist who you're following, but she's like still part of it.
Okay.
And like, the girl, Anna, brings them to this like luxury hotel in Morocco, like one of the top 10 hotels in the world. And like she flies her friends there like on a private jet and like gets them there. And then suddenly, whoops, can't pay. And she's like, all of a sudden her friend, she's like, I'm in this foreign country and my European bank cards don't work here. Can you just put your credit card down, kind of thing? Right. And it's like, her friend's like, she's like, well, you'll pay me back, right? And she's like, of course I'll pay you back, but of course she's not going to.
Right.
But it's like, why? Like she has every reason to believe that her friend who just flew her to Morocco and is at the crazy hotel, like, is indeed insanely rich when she's not. So it's like, yeah, you'll pay me back. Of course she doesn't, right. But yeah, it's like, it's so like, how'd you get, I don't know. It's like mind warping. And it's like, honestly, there are parts of the shows where it makes me like so uncomfortable. Cause it's like, this is like, I think watching this made me realize like, this is my worst fear, that someone's like conning me, I think. Interesting. This is like, it's like tapping into this like fear that I did not really know I had. I'm like, oh my God, I absolutely hate this. Yeah. This is like, if this was happening to me, I would be dying,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No, that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, and yeah, so like to go back to like my example, like, same thing. So like I check into my room at this like super fancy resort, like, you go and do all the things. And like we went to dinner at like the resort, like restaurant that night, which is, just like probably one of the nicest dinners Alice and I have just ever had, hard stop. And same thing, like, they didn't even bring a bill over at like the end of the dinner. It was just going to like be put on like put on your room so that like when you check out, you will like, of course, inevitably pay for it. Like we got you, like we understand, like we're not going to like whatever. And, but like, you get to the end of the entire trip and it's like one of these things where it's like, I've already experienced all of the things. And for this resort, like you're up on top of like the driveway to this place is like 10 miles long.
Wow.
So it's like, there's like really no, like I remember like pulling into the gate and my GPS telling me like, you're 25 minutes away. And I was like, it says I'm here. Like, like how is that possible? And it was because like you have to like wind your way up like through this like mountain pass or whatever to get there. So like, and then like once you get there, like the person like takes your car to go and like park it somewhere.
Right.
Which I didn't see. Some parking lot that exists, must be.
Yeah.
But like, even for me, it's like I've gotten to the end of it. It's like, like if I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, Alice, they don't have any of our information. We can just leave.
Right.
It's like, even that, it's like not easily.
Not easily. Yeah.
Like, which is an interesting way to structure, I guess, like the entire experience. But I suppose if like you're in New York City and like you could conceivably like go through this entire stay, and of course they're not going to insult you by taking your money, but we know you're good for it. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Whatever. Then it's like you could just like walk out the door and disappear into the billions of people that exist
right
in New York City,
more or less.
And it's like, well, what's to stop people from doing this? And it's like part of me just literally thinks that the answer to that question is like gumption, like for the most part, what, like, how often are you thinking like, I'm going to go, it's like, I don't have a place to stay. So what I'm going to try to do tonight, I'm going to go see if I can slip through the most expensive place to stay in New York City.
Yeah.
And get away with it. And it's like your mind just doesn't even go there. It's like nobody's like worried about this problem because who's attempting it?
Right. Oh boy, this is something else that's occurred to me though, like watching this show, is that like, whenever you watch a show like this, like you see like, okay, there's Anna. She's the criminal. She's doing all these crazy things, but how it's going to end is that she's going to get caught. And like, there's always these sensational like movies or TV shows about criminals doing these sort of things, where, and that's like always the same thing. It's like, it's interesting to watch it happen, but like, they're going to get caught in the end. There's always the side of the law that's like slowly creeping up on them.
Right.
And they're sort of dipping and diving and dodging around, or maybe they're working with them. Who knows? It's like, that's always what's compelling. But like you were taught, like, yeah, they pretty much always get caught. Like, but like, it has occurred to me that like that cannot be true 100% of the time.
Like there are people that just made it.
Yeah. Like there are people who, like, there's got to be people who are just like committing crimes and just getting away with it, and who aren't worried about it and just go their whole lives, and that's just it. Like that, like not all crime is stopped or caught.
Man.
Like, and it's like, it's weird to think about. It's like, 'cause in my mind, like, yeah, it is, but is it?
But is it like the big thing here is that it's so difficult to know, because the only people who would know that they were living that life are probably not going to tell you.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Right.
It's like,
well, surely someone's going to tell the story. It's like, how would they tell the story if no one ever figured it out?
Exactly. This is exactly what I'm saying. It's like I always think there must, like, I think of like mobs or like crime families or something. And it's just like, yeah, these things are like generational and they go on. And like, there must be people that, like, it must be the case that some people are born into like a crime family. They are raised that way. They live their entire adult life and die and never got caught. And that's just how it was, like,
well, yeah,
is that the case? Does that happen?
I don't even know. I mean, it seems like certainly like someone somewhere would have like a memoir, and it would just sort of be like, it'd be like, here's what I did my whole life. go and find the evidence. It's there.
Yeah, or it's like it occurs to me that maybe the law is very aware of this person. There's just nothing they can do. They're it's clear they're doing nefarious things, but there's never evidence or whatever.
Right.
Something like that. I don't know.
Who is the famous? This is gonna be one of those things where it's I should absolutely just know the name of the person. Al Capone. Isn't this when they got him for
tax evasion or something?
Yeah, something fairly simple, and it was for the most part, he just never slipped up.
Right.
It was absolutely, was that the biggest thing? Was that his biggest crime? Nope.
Right.
Not
Here's the thing. Yeah.
Not by a mile.
How many Al Capones do you not know about that just just got away with it?
Right.
I don't know. It's I hate to even think that's real. And it's
and he's famous and he got caught.
Exactly. That's probably why he got caught. He's too famous.
Too famous. That's the thing though, is that it's the really good people are oh no, you don't want fame.
Right.
Yeah.
No.
I don't want anybody paying attention to me.
No one needs to know.
Oh man.
I'll just be quietly wealthy over here illegally. And that's what I have no idea. I don't know. That's been that thought was eating at my brain earlier this week. And I'm maybe that's not true. Maybe for the most part, if you're doing big enough crime, it's gonna be pretty noticeable.
Maybe, yeah. Well, and so going back to this Anna character, it's also interesting because it would be a fascinating psychology study just to see if there was somebody who was well, I've got nothing else to lose, I might as well try it. I'll just see how far I can go.
Right.
I could sort of see a scenario where that would play a very massive role in what allows somebody the ability to do it.
Right.
Which is just effectively oh, I know that this won't last forever. I know that I will be caught.
Oh yeah, they're on to me.
Yeah, 100%. It's but I have reached a point where it's you know what? I am tired of the life that I was living. I'm tired of watching these glamorous lifestyles on TV every day. I am just going to try.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to see what happens, and I'll see how far I get. And it's funny because it's I say that almost as if it's well, who would ever actually do that? And it's the real answer is probably fairly few people.
Yeah.
But then there's also what pie in the sky goal have you ever chased before which is not illegal? But so go back to our example from earlier. It's you know what? I've thought about doing a marathon for most of my life. I'm just gonna go for it.
Right.
So maybe it doesn't work out.
Right.
Worst case scenario.
Right.
But otherwise, maybe I do it.
Maybe you do it. Yeah. Maybe you finish. This is what's interesting about how they're framing this character in the show is through an almost sympathetic lens.
Okay.
Where her whole goal throughout the show is to build this club, or this the Anna Delvey Foundation is what she's calling it, and it's going to be just some socialite super elite club, and she has the vision for it, she has a business plan for it, and it seems most of the show it's presenting it to you through this lens of if she could just she's having to con her way to get the money to start the club, but they're framing it in such a way where you feel if she could just get the money, she would actually be successful at doing the thing she wants to do.
Right. That's the thing, is that it's when it comes down to it, it's the only person who can get away with something like this is extremely gifted in some capacity. I don't even know what that capacity is. I don't know what skill to call that, but it's you're not everything you're capable of doing makes you highly valuable, absolutely, in some way to someone. I don't know how, but what you're doing is truly remarkable, truly unique, one of a kind. There are not other people like you.
Yeah.
And therefore, you have a marketable ability somewhere. So I could see where that would come from. Also, I could see where there's just not a whole lot of sympathy for the upper crust who are just being blatantly otherwise ripped off.
Oh, for sure.
Because it's kind of oh man, a super rich person had another super rich person steal from them. It's kind of well.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's a very well done show because you can see, for the most part, it sort of starts out like that, where you're oh no, some rich people got stolen from. It's they didn't even notice it,
Right.
they'll go to dinners and they'll show you the receipts and it'll be $37,000, and they'll just be whatever,
right?
And you're mm-hmm.
That's my car.
Mm-hmm. You just had a fun night out, did ya? All right, that's. you know, it's like that's the kind of level of like wealth you're dealing with here. So you don't necessarily feel that bad, but then they do a very good job of showing you like all the people along the way who are like maybe like not that rich, like they just like have a good job, but they're like still more or less just regular people, and their like lives are being ruined by this person like stealing money here and there and like coercing them out of it and stuff like that. But I would just recommend watching it because it's been very interesting to like see it all go down. And
that is very interesting.
Yeah.
And so on the flip end of the spectrum, like, cause I think it's interesting to me as well. Like, you know, cause I always do like that. Like if you were to look at the human race through like an anthropological perspective or whatever, it's like the idea of such extreme wealth happening. Like I'd almost be curious if you give humanity another 10,000 years and then you like start to write a textbook about like all of the different like ups, downs, all arounds that humanity went through. It's like, oh yeah, like early civilizations always have this one thing happen, which is that all the resources get tipped to one side for a while, and then they have to like figure out like how to like correct it. And
right,
it's like,
right.
We're living during the era of like human development, because it's all still so new. Like us as a like species, hard stop,
right?
That it's like we haven't seen the full life cycle of how everything goes. We're still in the middle of it,
right? Like where's the intergalactic aliens collecting data on the, you know, the life cycle of intelligent species, you know?
Exactly.
And they're
right.
like, yes, the humans down on Earth, they're still so early down there.
They're a phase 2 species.
They're in phase 2 out of like phase 100.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly
like,
right. Yeah.
Like there's like other societies that, like you can always track. Everyone does the same thing. Don't feel bad, you guys. Look, everyone finds the most available resource and does it to death, no matter how bad it is for their planet. Like it happens every time, right? Like don't like you guys. They always solve it too. Mostly,
right. It's like the good news is that they are getting smarter as fast as they are exploiting. And so the good, it's like that. This is what it comes down to.
This is what it's going to come down to. Like I always like on that. I always imagine that if you had some like human like. I don't even know what the right word would like morality or like happiness index or something. If they could like chart it over time, we'd be like, see, like we on like the micro scale would be like, see, we peaked like 10 years ago. This is as happy as the entire planet's ever been. And the aliens would be like, yeah. So that's like a 1, and you guys are gonna like most civilizations ends up here at like 100. The happiest your whole planet's ever been is like a 1, and it's like from where you're at, that was a really big point,
right?
But you don't even know.
This is. I mean. There are so many different things that you can look at that would like make you I don't even know like see how possible this can be. I mean, this is like tracking like a stock price or whatever, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's at like an all-time high. This is like unbelievable. And then like, you know, if you go back at like the squiggly line that like follows it, like somewhere along that squiggly line is a point where like it reached what was previously its peak, and then like following that peak is like, oh man, like it went way down. It was like, and during that day that it went way down, people probably were like, whatever happened to blank and blank brand? It's like they used to be worth so much and now they're not. And it's like these ebbs and flows, these ups and downs. It's like everything depends on like at what point in time you decide to look at the data and how far back in time you decide to interpret that data.
Right.
I guess it's even like if you were to start walking up Mount Everest, and let's say Mount Everest takes you 40 days to get to the top. If someone were to ask someone who's been walking for 32 days, do you ever make it to the top? The person like, I've been walking for 32 days. You never make it to the top. And it's like, you're 8 days away from making it to the top.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like that person's been doing it longer than the person who's only been doing it for a single day. And it's like, their experience is 32 times as valuable and yet still inaccurate.
Yeah. This is another, there's always this, we've talked about the book Think Again by Adam Grant on here before. And every now and then I feel like he will reuse this like same image on like his Instagram posts, but it'll like show you someone who's like got like 3 big steps in front of them. And they're like, oh my God, I'm still so far away. Like I have, you know, like this is impossible. And it's like that. And it's like that like comic square will like represent like anyone's given mindset at any one given time, but then the next one is always like it'll show you that, like, it'll zoom out and it'll be like those final 3 steps are like the top, and like behind them are like 100 steps.
Oh yes,
you know?
yes,
and it'll be
exactly.
like, but it's like no one ever cares about what, like, no one, like, people are so rarely willing to give themselves credit for things they've already accomplished if there's still even a little bit more
Yes.
to do. And it's like, no, you gotta, like, you've done a lot, you're doing good, you got it, man. Like, look back there, like that. Sure, you got a few more steps, but look how many steps you've already climbed.
Yeah. You should be proud of yourself. I'm proud of you. Just so
exactly.
You know. Anyway, so the last little bit of information that I wanted to bring up. So we were talking basically about, like, you know, the Upper East Side of New York City, Manhattan. Like that's like, you know, civilization at, I don't even want to call it its peak, because it's probably not my interpretation of civilization at its peak.
Probably not like peak existence. Maybe it's like certainly very rich people though.
It is certainly that. It is certainly that. So I mean, you know, I suppose take that. But last week, you and I spent a whole bunch of time talking about, like, the idea of human society creating, like, recreation, like the idea of, like, are sports, like, you know, invented or like discovered? Like, does every civilization eventually, like, say, hey, I bet I can run faster than you can run, you know, like, whatever.
Of course.
And I got a very interesting email back from Z.
Okay.
That was the name of the little colonel who emailed me. And they were telling me about, like, this really fascinating piece of, like, anthropological, like, speculation.
Okay.
And the idea was that, like, the first sign of, like, civilization having, like, done exactly what we were speculating, like, sport to effectively, like, represent is the idea of a repaired femur.
Okay.
Which I was like, okay, so, like, on the most basic level, I was like, wow, okay, I don't know how that could be correct.
Right.
But, like, it's very interesting, like, when you delve into the explanation associated with it. So in case you're unaware, the femur is the largest bone in your body. It is, like, the one that connects between, like, your hip and your kneecap.
Yeah.
It's like your big leg bone.
Big leg bone.
And the idea is that if there is a repaired broken femur, it means that there has been enough advancement in civilization for there to be some amount of, like, knowledge to where when something got broken, that there was, like, enough knowledge that it could be fixed.
Right.
There's also the fact that it is arguably the most useful, in terms of, like, being a hunter or something like that. It's a pretty necessary piece of your body. So it also represents that, like, not only are there, like, caregivers whose job it is to, like, make sure other people are, like, okay and healed, but also that, like, the civilization is willing to accept a scenario where somebody can't directly contribute towards, like, the thing that they previously had.
Okay.
You know, so it's almost even like this like layer of, you know, like, now this person who has a broken femur, it's like, it's okay if, like, they need time to recover from that.
Right.
Like,
it's yeah, right. It's not like, well, I guess old Jim broke his leg back there. Time to take him out back and ain't just another mouth to feed now.
Right. We took him to the farm.
Yeah. These are my caveman voices. I don't know if you can tell.
Oh, yeah. No, spot on.
They were all cowboys.
Right. Yeah. But anyway, I do you not find this to be, like, very interesting?
No.
I thought it was super interesting. I was like, that is such an interesting piece, is that it's not just, like, the repair for broken bone, it's the repair of broken femur.
Right.
Is, like, the sign that, like, civilization has, like, reached like that threshold of existence, that, like, it is excelled enough to where there's a small amount of, like, medical knowledge, where the town, the group of people that, like, this person would coexist within has enough, like, sympathy and empathy for someone to take the time to recover from such, like an injury. And
right.
I don't know, like, I was like, it's a very fascinating way to look at it.
Yeah.
So, like, that's pretty cool. So anyway, I do super appreciate the feedback from Little Colonel Z.
Thank you, Z.
On what it means for humanity to be civilized.
Yeah.
Broken femurs.
Breaking healing legs.
Anyway, guys, I feel like we're at a great point in the episode to go ahead and step off for the week. Hope everybody had a truly fantastic Thanksgiving celebration, if that is something.
Hope you're all gearing up to watch the USA play England.
Ayo!
Ayo, World Cup is on. What?
I know. Very exciting stuff. I have been, I know that in Qatar there is a lot of like big issues in the FIFA organization that, you know, exists around the World Cup is not a good organization. But there is something about like this nationally represented like sport that just makes me like excited for the future of like I feel like I'd just be excited for a world where like soccer becomes like the most popular sport in America.
Oh yeah, like
And-
it's already the most popular sport in the world.
Right. Like in
Yeah.
my mind, I'm like, every other country has figured it out. Every other country understands that this is the greatest sport to have ever been created. And it's like, I feel like the US, this is just like another one of those things. It's like, has the country figured out that soccer is the best sport yet? It's like, oh no, they're not quite yet there. Okay.
Right? Yeah.
They're still in like the barbarian sports. Okay. No problem. I mean,
That's cool.
It's like, they'll all get there.
They'll get there.
Because that's what happens. So anyway, I always get very excited about it. It's been 8 years since we got to see the USA compete because they didn't qualify 4 years ago. So we watched, Jay and I were watching the game between Wales and the US, which ended in a tie. But yeah, very exciting stuff. If you're listening to this, maybe US has already played England.
Maybe.
And can you believe that they won in that nail biter?
What?
It was, I mean,
Man.
how many goals were 4-3?
Woo.
I mean, that's a bunch of goals for a World Cup. Very impressive. It was, how thrilling.
What a high scoring soccer match it was.
This is my prediction.
This is your prediction?
Yeah.
4-3 U.S. victory over England today.
I want to say that that's what I think it would be, but I think it's gonna be 4-3 England.
Oh no,
We were in it,
Wow.
and that's like what people will say. It's like, man, it's like, you know, they were like
They were
they
in it.
played a great game.
Yeah, they were in it.
They put some goals away on them, but they couldn't quite edge it out. That's my prediction.
Okay.
That's my prediction.
We'll see.
We will see. Anyway, guys, as ever, if you have any feedback for the show, be sure to send that over to popcornculturepod@gmail.com. I do just absolutely love all of the feedback that you have. If there's anything that we talked about today that you want to let us know your thoughts on, again, popcornculturepod@gmail.com. Otherwise, if you would like to support us over on Patreon, I can highly recommend our $5 tier, which gets you access to after the final pop. It's an extra 15 to 20 minutes of Jay and I talking.
Just me.
Just Jay. This week it's gonna be just Jay the whole time. It's honestly, I do think as far as our Patreon tiers are concerned, it's a really fantastic bang for your buck because you get access to all of the previous after the final pop. So if you're just like, man, I am caught up on popcorn culture, I want more stuff to consume. There are, I believe at this point in time, over 100 episodes of after the final pop that you could tune into. So lots of good stuff over there. That's patreon.com/popcornculture. Otherwise, until next time.
Pop.